Yeah, we got no audio.
Oh, I got to unmute myself. How about that? Is that
That works. That works.
Minor details. All right, dude. It's been a little bit of time. Wanted to check in. We get into the details, but how are things going studying wise? Like, how you feeling right now?
I'm feeling actually pretty good. I did another test and I got an 80.
It's not bad.
So, yeah, I went from a 61 to a 78 to an 80. So every week I'm getting better.
Nice. And when is the exam again? Like, what's the date? Rough?
I don't have it set yet.
Okay, you don't have it set yet. You should probably start. We should probably start talking about like dates because, like, if you're in that neighborhood, you're in the sweet spot. So you're looking good.
And I really do want to take the exam. I am ready. I am very motivated to go and take it.
Well, let's get it done in like a week or so. I know July 4th and all that stuff, but okay. So how do we want to use our time tonight? Like, what do you think would be the most helpful for you, man?
Well, to tell you my what do you call it? The evaporating list.
Evaporating data dump. Yeah.
It never fills the page. I always get 2 or 3, and then I watch a few more videos, and then the questions get answered. Like today, I had a question about total budget.
Yeah.
You have the managerial budget.
Well, hold on. Let's just go through it, dude. Let's just go through it. I'll let you teach.
But you answered it. You answered it.
I answered it. Well, why don't you teach me real quick? Just teach me real quick. Just I take your word for it, but let me see what you got. Let me see.
I had a lot of driving today, so I had a lot of time to listen.
Yeah. Hold on, I got a crazy screen. All right, here we go. All right, so you got a lot of crazy screen, or so. What was the big question that you had initially? Like you said, like budget and stuff. What was it? Like,
no, the question was, you have the known unknowns.
Yeah.
And you have a budget that's in the overall budget for that. But then you have the unknown unknowns, which are in the, I'm going to get the words wrong, the managerial budget.
In a sense, yeah. Keep going.
And so I was just confused in the terminology of what do you call it when the managerial is total, the total budget with the managerial money in there, and then the budget without the managerial, which is just your known unknowns in there.
Right. So let's break it down. Like, let's start out with known unknowns. These are different types of risks and stuff, uncertainties that we have in the game. And so when you talk about like building up the budget, in a sense, we have all that activity costs, like the work that it takes to do, the money that it takes to do the work, all the materials, all that stuff, like standard, like can't get away from that. Like that's the activity costs and everything associated with it. Now we get into the thing of like, there's a baseline, and then what's above the baseline, like the total what's it called on top of that?
Budget.
Yeah, total budget. And so now we got to just figure out what the heck's in each one of them. So like, what's in here and what's in here from this stuff.
Right. So the lower arrow has money in for risks, for known unknowns, for things that you pretty sure these are going to come hit you while you're doing your project. So you have a budget to take care of them.
Right, and that's known as what would I put in here? What's the name I'd put in here?
Oh man, I'm going blank on all the words.
Oh, come on, don't do it. Like the last one, I'll give you the easy word. I'll take the reserve part of it, but there's another one on the other side. Like
not contingency? No.
Yeah. You had it right the first time. Contingency reserve. Yeah. So that's we're running out of letters. Contingency reserve, like the known unknowns. These are the things that are going to happen, or you think are going to happen, and you've put some money aside for them.
And are included in the cost baseline. That's where I was getting stuck, between the cost baseline and the budget.
Right, and why do you think they are included in the baseline?
Well, because it's a cost that you're probably going to have. And it's also a cost that's under your control as a PM. So when the risks come up and you go back to your risk plan and to resolve the risks, you have it's in your budget to use to get to act and to correct.
Yeah, we want to be totally, I love what you're saying. Totally upfront with people, like, hey, this is what's going to happen. There's these risks. We've planned for them. We put some money aside. We expect it. Might not come, but it might come. So we want to be there. Now, the other side, what's up here? What's that called?
You don't have control over that. That's the The managers,
management reserve. Yeah,
management reserve.
Yeah,
so
management. Yeah.
In my mind, if something like when you say the aliens land and steal all your cars, you can't. That's not for you to control. You go to your management or your PMO or whoever you go
whoever's
to,
controlling it,
and they help you spend that money. They're in control of that, and they give it to you to use for your unknown unknowns.
Totally true. And then we're nailing all these down like while we're going through risk all the time. So here the risk and the cost and all these things, schedule, everything comes together like this. So really, really good. Cool. So I'm glad that's cleared up. Boom, we're done there.
There was a question about budget, and I got it wrong because I confused budget and baseline. I thought budget was baseline, and I didn't include the management reserve. So
yeah, totally. And you know that like as we think about like this is like all stacked up from top to bottom. Like in reality, the way it looks is like like this or something like that. Money's not ever spent over time, evenly over time. But like this is what we expect to spend. Like this is our baseline
over time.
Yeah, and then our budget's up here.
Right.
And then we track with what? Like I should have done the colors, but differently. But we're tracking like actual overtime, and we're seeing how it goes. So cool.
Okay.
All right. So you feel pretty good there. What else you got, man? Flip the page.
Another thing I was having trouble on, which I thought I knew, but I was getting the questions wrong, was in Agile when you have the backlog, the items in the backlog get moved up and down. They get broken down. Pieces get moved up. Pieces get moved down. They get voted on and thrown out or whatever. And then the good ones get moved over to your sprint backlog.
Yes. Which
I learned last week, which I didn't know, but now I know. But I'm still not 100% on how it was an upside down triangle. I mean, it was like a pyramid, right? Or was it this way?
In talk it through in what respect? Like
I remember
like how we get there and how we refine our stuff. And
I remember seeing either a pyramid or a triangle. I think it was a pyramid where the big stuff, and then you break it down and it bubbles up, and just get smaller stuff, and it gets better up top.
Yeah. And so everything you were talking about, if you have like the product backlog, right? And you nailed it down. You were saying like things get, what's the technical term? What do they call it when we're messing around with the backlog to take these user stories and the top ones float up the bottom? What do you call that? What do you call it when these fancy dogs at like the Westminster fancy dog show? If a dog went outside, got all messed up, what would the dog trainer do when they came in? What would they do?
Groom them.
They would groom them. And then another way is like refinement, grooming and refinement. I was going to do something in the oil in the ground. So it's like grooming or refining are the terms, right? So like you said, user stories go on here. Like I'll just draw cards.
And they're big.
Yeah, they're big. And like metaphorically, they're big. Like, and so like they're all on there. These are all cards, whatever. And then you're right. They start off being big. Like, different sizes of big. Yeah. The cards are the same size. It's just index cards. But like, they get smaller. And then what does it mean as they get smaller? Like what's happening in a sense? Like what are we doing?
Like you said, actually the analogy you had was you tear the card into smaller pieces to get some ideas on the card are good and some just aren't good enough to move up. So the ideas get more refined, which in turn makes them smaller, and then they bubble up to the top when they're better, and then you get the best ones at the top. But who does that?
Well, who first of all, who owns this thing? Who owns this thing? The product backlog.
It's Agile, so it's the product owner, the owner.
Yeah, the product owner owns it. And if you were the product owner, your responsibility is to make sure that things are at the top, make sure the product's being developed in the right way. It's your neck on the line, right? Like, and how would you go about the process of refining this backlog? Like,
well, that's the point. That's where I get a little confused because the team is the one who has the knowledge to work and produce or to, change and come up with ideas for these items, whereas the product owner really is not the knowledge base for the items. They're the owner. They know what they want, it's an overall sense, but I don't get the impression that they know that they're experts in the field, so they would need help. So they would have to go to the team to go through this.
Yeah, the team, or like, so they're going to go to whoever they need to go to. It's their responsibility to bring in the people. They got to get the team involved into it, surely. But like, so consulting on some projects where like we're building dashboards and other stuff, like the team's super capable in, you know, the technical side of it, building things out. They have a knowledge of the business in a sense, but like it ends at a certain point. Like at the end of the day, they're sitting in a room with a computer doing some stuff. So like the product owner, a lot of times, you know, it behooves them to go out and find out, are there, like, if the team, sure, let's get the team involved. You get your own brain involved.
Would it be like, external people or internal to the company?
Huh?
External to the company or internal to the company? I mean,
whatever. Like, I mean, if we're making a product for the outside, we might want to ask people outside. If we're making something from inside, we might want to ask inside. I don't know. Like,
so they could do focus groups and stuff like that to do it, or
they just bring in focus groups, brainstorming, whatever. They're going to bring in whoever they need to refine this and figure this out and build this team. Could be other stakeholders in the company, could be concerned people, whatever. Could be, you know, experts in the industry, like people that are doing the work, like out there, like we're building a product for some, you know, a worker or somebody else. Like bring them in. Like, what are you looking for? What do you think? What do you like? Like stuff like that. Yeah.
If they have like a 2-week cycle, when the 2-week cycle's over and it starts over again, and they start to move items from the product backlog to the just lost the word.
Scrum or sprint backlog, iteration backlog, whatever. Yeah.
The sprint backlog. So basically, it's just wherever the product backlog is at that point, they just take the good items and move them over to the sprint, because the product backlog is going to keep changing all the time.
Yeah, and that's the way we kind of want to do it. So, like, if you think about this being a relative conveyor belt, like what we're trying to do with this process is trying to get flow going, right? So, so we're trying to get flow going. So in order to keep flow going, there's got to be, I'll erase all this stuff. There's got to be like things that are ready. Like, so we can't wait till the last minute and be like, oh, what's at the top of the backlog? We're going to make suboptimal decisions at that point.
But there's a lot of decisions. I mean, there's decisions on, is it a 2-day item or is it a 2-month item? And is it a $2 item that's going to make us $10, or is it a $2 item that's going to make us $100? I mean, there's a lot of things to consider as to which one's going to be bumped over for the next sprint.
I like both of those bets, by the way. 2 to make 10, I'll take it every day. 2 to make 100, I'll take it every day. But yes, so the product owner has the responsibility of making sure that this is refined and moving it up. And they're not just waiting to say like, hey, the sprint ends tomorrow, I better get all my stuff. No, too late. It's over at that point. Like the guy's got to work something. Like, so they got to continue to do it. So this like conveyor belt here, like things move up and down and refine. And then once the sprint start, or, you know, the iteration planning goes, like they have an accurate assessment where we can start pulling it in there and getting to work. Like, so we it's kind of got to keep going. Kind of everybody's got to do their job. So product owner is managing this part of it over here. So, yeah, that's cool. I don't know if that crazy drawing's helped.
No, because I mean, I understand it from the videos and stuff. I figured out a way. I have my phone on the dashboard of the car, and if I turn my phone sideways, I can actually see what you're doing and catch some of the graphics.
All right, cool. So what else we got? What else you got? What other questions?
I want to tell you how it's kind of crazy to listen to you every morning, every afternoon, and every night, and watch you sitting in that spot and talking. And now I'm actually talking to you.
Yeah, I'm wearing the same exact shirt, by the way.
You don't see me every day. You see me once a week. I see you from 6 to 8 a.m. I see you from like noon to 3, and then I see you from 5 to 8.
That's crazy. It's good, but I mean, like, how long have you been in this? Like, I can't even remember. It's been like a week and a half or 2 weeks or something like that?
Yeah, 2 weeks with you. I've been reading other books and just trying to do other study things that weren't working before that. So
All right, well, 2 weeks ain't bad. And you're like, here's the thing, like you are ready to go right now. Like I can tell the way you're talking. We just bounced Waterfall, Agile, all that stuff. You didn't know any Agile before, really. Like
Right,
you just bounced back between the topics like easily. You understand how like change is managed, all this different stuff, like what the purpose is, what the roles are. Like that's the indication in my mind that's like you're ready to go. And so I think you should go early next week or tomorrow or right after we get this call. It doesn't matter to me. Like, but are there some other areas where you're like, I need to talk about, I'm confused?
Well, first, I haven't done any. I think the biggest test I did was 50 questions, so I wanted to do at least 1 or 2 full tests. So maybe what I'll do is I'll plan that out, and I'll just tell my boss I'm taking a couple of days off.
Yeah.
And then do a full day test, and then the next day take the actual test.
Yeah, that's fair. Yeah, and then like the way we like to think about it is like, so it's 180 questions, 60, 60, 60, right? So if we just simulate that, like, sure, you can take the long ones, but might as well just take 60, 60, 60s and like feel what it's like. Your timing on the exam, like on the actual exam, will probably be a little bit slower just because nerves and, it's a new system and all that jazz. But like, if you're, keep track of how you're doing on the practice, you'll be fine.
Well, I'm averaging about a little less than a minute per question.
Oh, then you're good, man.
I did a 20-minute. I did a 20 question in 18 and a half minutes.
Yeah.
So I could go take a little more time. I find that when I explain the wrong answers more, I find the right answer better, quicker, or more accurate.
Talk me through that. So when you explain the wrong answer more, like you're talking about in your mind while you're solving questions, right?
Well, like even with the group classes too, like when you go through and there's when you hit the wrong answer, you go, yeah, that one's definitely wrong. But then say why it's wrong, because that gets you more in tune with either Agile where it is or Waterfall where it is, and it kind of brings up other areas or details of where the question is to help you get to the right area that has the right answer.
Okay, so you're saying like when you have like A, B, C, and D, if you go through, normal people just go through, like before we get involved with them, they go like, A's not the answer, I hate it. But then they're like, oh, they never go into the why of like why it's bad, right? Is that what you're saying? Like,
yeah. Like
you go into like why it's bad. How does that help you?
A says, go talk to your manager and then fire somebody. So you know it's wrong because it says fire somebody, but still go back and talk about go talk to your manager. That might be a viable option. And if it didn't say go fire somebody, that could be a possible answer. So get that idea in your head and, okay, that's viable. Why is it viable? Because he's in this stage and he needs help. So then go to B. Don't just say, well, it says fire somebody, so I know that's wrong. I'm crossing it out.
Right. You know that like the first half, that's reasonable. We're halfway good there. The back half bad. And then it also kind of frames you, like you're talking about, it frames you on like what the bad side is and you know why. Also frames the good side and it takes you to the next one. Have you, like, the thing that, well, first of all, you're teaching me, that's a winner. And then the second thing is like, are you finding it easy to like, relatively easy to like cross out A, like A for the A and for these reasons, like A's gone and then go to the next one? Like, how is that working in your mind?
Yeah, when I first started, like 3 weeks ago, sometimes I'd say no, definitely not A, and then after I read them all, I'd go back and go, A might be viable, but now, when I say no, it's out, I know that it's out, and I know, like, I have a real solid reason on why it's out. So I'm a lot more confident.
What's up? Oh, we got to turn around, Hunter. Oh, I got popcorn delivered.
That's I got snacks. I got Thin Mints.
Thin Mints, yeah. All right. Well, that is really great because if you can stick to that process, our game, to be like cold about it, is to go from like 1 in 4 to most people can go to 50-50. And then we want to go up to 80-20. We want to be better than that. But
I'm starting to see that with the 50-50, even though they're both viable, one is short-term and one's long-term, and the long-term is better, or one is a step later on in the process, whereas the other one is a step now to solve it. So I understand they're both viable, but then I do understand that one of them is not the now answer. It's a maybe later, or after you do 4 other things, then you go to the log and then enter it and whatever.
Oh, that's awesome. So some of those, like, let's go through some of those little tricks, or no, not tricks, but whatever. So you said what, like long-term versus short-term. That's a good one. Like, like if you get down to those 50-50s, it's definitely long-term versus short-term. That's a good way to cut it up. What are some of the other tricks or, things we developed? What do you got?
It's in the what are you going to do? What should the project manager do next? Or as I should say, what am I going to do next?
Yeah, what am I doing next? Yeah, doing next.
It's what's the next step? I mean, do you take it to the change order unit, and then once change order unit approves it, then you put it into action. So if B is put it into action, and C is bring it to the change order unit, but D is do your research so that you have an answer to give to the change order unit, or not an answer, but information to give to the change order unit on what the costs and what the time impact's going to be. Well, now you got 3 viable answers, but obviously you got to do D first. Then you do C, then you do B. So they're all correct, but the first one you do is the order. It's an order question, so you do D first.
Right, I love it. And some of the other things, like, to think through, like, okay, so we got long-term, short-term, we got, like, what's the order in, like, understanding that. Because people get tied up too much times, like saying, well, that's possible, that's possible, that's possible. But, like, you're right, the order going, I just blanked on some of the other things that we've made up or I've made up. You got any other, what are some other things? I can't remember. Like, I made up so much stuff. Like, I can't remember. And then, some of the things, like, to that point is a lot of times kind of like goes there is like going back to basics, like back to analysis. Like, am I analyzing the right stuff? Is it action or an analysis? So, like, go back to analyze, like back to the beginning earlier. That's a good one. And then we always know, like, the change questions. It's like the same question over and over. Now we have it on both sides of the fence, Agile and Waterfall. So if we know how to handle change in both sides, we can do it.
So, yeah, that was one that got me caught up last week, was doing change in Agile.
To ask whether to get the projector, or that's my other brother. Ask your brother to get the projector on. How to handle change in. Okay, so let's go into that one.
So since you really don't go to, I build schools and stuff, so we call it change order unit. But change order unit in Agile, you go back to the product owner. So the product owner is really the change order unit, or the cost control.
Or they call it change control board. Yeah, that's what they call it in Waterfall. It's change control board.
But in Agile, it's just going back to the product owner.
Yeah, the product owner. The product owner is the final say. And, like, if you think about it, like, the product owner's job is to make sure that the product is successful all the way through. So they're cultivating the backlog. They're making sure everything's there. Ultimately, they're funding everything in a sense. And so they're the one that strikes the check. If someone says, hey, we need to bring on another guy, we got to do this training, we got to get this system, this computer, whatever, all that stuff, that's the dude that you got to sell on cutting the check for it.
But when you go to him, do you actually, I mean, can you go on a verbal, or do you get him to actually write something up?
I mean, there's no, like, formal whatever. It's whatever. So with Agile, the whole Agile manifesto is like, one-to-one conversations and collaboration versus, like, piles of documentation. So like, there are no rules with, like, you got to go with an 8x10 piece of paper and it's got to be signed 2 ways from Sunday and stamped with a whatever. Nah, it's like whatever gets the job done, we stay proper. Like, we can, it's not like willy-nilly, but yeah, you got to go there and talk to them as an individual, make the case, have it be rational, have it be inclusive. Let's move on. Let's get the thing going.
All right, because it's a lot different than what I do in real life. I work in such strict waterfall that I
totally understand. And it's a different environment, right? Like, you guys have contracts. You're dealing with the state or local, federal, whatever government. Like, there are parameters that you have to go through.
Yeah, so. But it makes it easy because it's so structured.
Yeah,
and I know that system. So like scheduling and changes and things like that comes easy to me. But Agile is the total opposite. So I have to, it took me a while to get the grasp of that, but now I think I got it. But sometimes I have questions like, you would really just go to the owner and ask him for a change and go on it? I said, yeah, well, I guess that's agile, and that's the way you go. It moves fast and it changes a lot.
Yeah, and the other thing is it's a different type of project. And so, yeah, we're going there. It doesn't mean that they don't have controls, and it doesn't mean they're willy-nilly with the money. I mean,
but you're not building
the product owner. I'm not technically the product owner for the projects that work in my company, but I do at a certain level. They have to come to me to sell, like that the money comes at a certain level, and so that's the way it works. Maybe we run through a couple. If you have any other big ones, maybe we just run through a couple questions or something, just random.
Okay, yeah. The only other thing I've noticed, which is strange, is that in Waterfall, I tend to, I do well. I had a little in the beginning. I had a little trouble between initiate and planning, but I went back and went over it a couple of times, and I think I got that pretty straight now. Yeah. But I find I'm most of my questions that I get wrong are in planning and executing, which to me is so straightforward, and I don't understand why I'm getting questions wrong.
Do you have any ideas of like what kind of flavors of things you're getting wrong, or anything that I can work off of, or anything? Like
I haven't found any patterns to it or any specifics. I think maybe I'm just getting the words wrong, or I'm not sure.
Maybe. Okay.
I feel confident with the questions, and then I go back and I go, really? That's the answer? Come on. I'm like, come on, really? And it just doesn't, I didn't catch it. So I read through it and I go, okay, okay, I see that. I see where you're coming from. And then, all right, I got it wrong. Moved on, next one. So.
Yeah, I totally understand. Well, I mean, like the big parts, hey, C. Perry out there, shoot me an email, Scott at PMmasterPrep.com. I'll help you out, dude. Or do that, whatever. And so, yeah, just the big things with planning and executing, just high level. It's just planning and Waterfall, heavy on the upfront of like, we're methodically going through schedules, costs, scope, all these different areas to break down what the work is, WBS, all these things. We're setting up our procurements if we need them, baselines, we're knocking these things down. And then it just, in executing, there's a lot in executing, but as far as like the work's all been done, planning. Now in executing, we're putting people to work, we're getting the procurement guys online, getting them into the stream, and then we're building our team out, checking
One of the tricky parts in executing is when the difference between executing and monitoring, controlling, when they talk about either, between the data and the
oh yeah, that's easy. I can explain that.
I know what it is, but when they put in the question, sometimes I get it wrong. I get it backwards or something. They confuse me.
Right. But I mean, so data, like you said, what is data versus information? Like, this is a minor. I mean, it's a pretty good point. But what made it come true with you?
Well, data is executing, and information is monitoring and controlling.
True. Yeah. So if we get that confused. Yeah, executing and monitoring, controlling. Because what's happening here, if we just think about like the factory example, this is the actual factory. So if we draw a factory or whatever, and like a smokestack, blah, 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 this is where the people are doing the work. So they're all, I can't draw, but they're doing the work, hitting it with a hammer, doing whatever. And then what comes out is just like straight facts or data, like results. And so all the details are there. It's like spreadsheets full of like what we spent, what we created, all the numbers, all the quality stats, whatever. But like those seem to stack up. You know this better than anything. And then the monitoring control of these dudes over here are just, they got glasses on and stuff, and they like computers or whatever. Like they're just looking at the data and they're eating it up and they're making sense of it. So they're turning that into like charts and graphs, and I don't like pie charts, but it's easy to draw them. But like they're getting some realizations, some like ahas from it. And basically they are taking the data, the hard work that they put together. They're realizing we're doing better, worse, something, all that stuff. And then that feeds into like either stay the course, we're doing good, or we got to do a change up here, or, something, needs to be reported out. And then eventually if things change, then like the work instructions from the change requests go here, and it just wraps around. So that's the way I think about it. There's like two different people.
Well, let me ask you this. When monitoring controlling finds something that needs to be changed,
Yeah.
do they go back to the PM in the executing stage, or do they submit the change to the change control?
So here's the thing. Like when I make up examples like that, it's not anthropomorphizing, but I don't know what it is when I say like every single one of them is a factory, like there's not a factory in each one of the processes. There might be different parties in the project that are doing different stuff, like analysts or something over here that are like doing work. And so like everybody has, maybe this is like an analyst, maybe these are just like the team, like the dev team or the regular team, whatever. Like everybody has a role. So when these people, it's their job to like crank through the data, do it. Maybe it's the project manager doing it, depending on the size. But whoever's doing it there, whatever the structure is in the project, they're just handling it the appropriate way. Maybe they bring it to the project manager. Maybe their process is to like send a report somewhere and somebody interprets. I don't know. It's all anecdotal and it's all project based, like situational. So they're not going to go run off and like change stuff. It's like a system, like just any project.
Yeah,
they might be like, hey man, we found this, like whatever. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
You want to do some questions?
Yeah. Hey, what's up, Nalise? Nalise says, I'm here for this. I don't know how to show it. Cool.
Go.
Sweet. That's good. We can do a question or two if you want. Just random. Let me see what I can do. Unless you got anything else on that one.
No, that's kind of my notes.
All right, sweet. Let me see if I can get a question.
Everything's evaporated.
I mean, that's the project. Like, so I talked to a lot of students. Nothing that you're saying worries me. Like, nothing that you're saying is freaking me out. Like the way you're saying it, you're not stating things incorrectly. You're not, whatever. Hey, Facebook user. So let's add it to the stream. Take it away, man.
Okay. What should the project manager do? You're not giving me any clues on the question there. What should the project manager do? All right. Planned task for a project does not get completed due to an issue that appeared 3 days ago, but did not get resolved. That's messed up. A planned task for a project does not get completed. So it was planned, but it didn't get done due to an issue that came up. Everybody knew about it, but it didn't get resolved. Mm-hmm. That's a problem. The project manager wants to prevent this type of situation in the future. Of course he does, because that's horrible. Mm-hmm. What does the project manager do? Well, what the project manager has to work on getting items resolved before, first of all, they shouldn't go 3 days. And second of all, they got to get resolved right away so that, and you can't leave out a planned task. Mm-hmm. So that's the basis.
That's how you're feeling. Like, what kind of project is this? Like Agile Waterfall? What are we thinking here so far? Any indications?
This is definitely Waterfall because it's a planned task. I mean, to me, it's Waterfall.
Okay, a plan. So okay. I like what you're thinking about a planned task. We'll see what happens. But yeah, like planned task. So, some like when we get into Waterfall, it's not like things are not like handled. Like they do have actions. Like when we get into here's what we're going to do. It's not so willy-nilly, but it is less planned as far as it is. But I like how you're inferring. Okay, so I think you've talked about it a little bit. Let's go into A, see what you think.
In the next daily stand-up meeting, which will be Agile, review the issue. Well, I don't really like that because it's the issue's already there. It's 3 days old and it hasn't been resolved. To stand up to review the issue again, you're still in the same boat. It's going to go fourth day.
Okay.
In the demo, which is Agile, address the issue. Well, to me, the demo comes at the end. I don't know if that's correct or not.
But that's correct. Like at the end of the iteration or sprint, the demo's at the end. What's the purpose of the demo?
The purpose of the demo is to show the product owner what you've worked on and what is working and that it works.
Yeah. And so this question, is this about what's working or is this about what's not working or what's going on in the question?
But in the demo, you're showing what works. You're not resolving problems.
Right.
So addressing the issue in the demo, those two things to me don't go together.
Right. Yeah, we do not want to air the dirty laundry. It's just not the place for it. Not that we're scared or anything. It's just standing in the way of progress.
It's not the place where you fix things. It's the place where you show off what you did.
Yeah, and get feedback and learn all that stuff.
Yeah.
So beautiful. Keep going.
During the next iteration planning meeting, discuss the issue. So that one's got merit. I don't like the waiting part, but it's got merit.
Okay, what's got merit? What's meritable about it, if that's a term?
During the next iteration planning meeting, you discuss the issue because you had an issue that didn't get resolved and a thing that didn't happen. It's not a right away fix. You're not fixing it. Well, I mean, it's viable, but I don't like it because you're still not fixing the problem at hand. That fixes problems for the future, but you still haven't fixed the problem at hand.
Okay, cool. Keep going.
D, during the retrospective, which is at the end of Agile, so they're all Agile answers. So obviously this is Agile.
Yeah, so they put it in there. Yeah, so it's okay. They framed us. That's all right.
So during the retrospective, examine the issue. Again, you're at the end of. I mean, if you're at a 2-week sprint, I don't know where you are. You're in the middle of the sprint somewhere because you're building it or working on it. The retrospective is at the end. So examine the issue at the end. I don't like that one either because you're waiting again.
Yep, you're waiting. Okay. So what are we doing?
So the one that hits it first would be A, because that issues it tomorrow. And
understood. So a planned task for a project does not get completed due to a planned task for a project does not get completed to an issue that appeared 3 days ago but did not get resolved. The project manager wants to prevent this situation in the future. Okay. Yeah. And so I don't know where we are. It kind of seems like we are at the end, like, well, I mean, it didn't get completed due to an issue 3 goes because it didn't get resolved.
Yeah, but the question does say preventing for the future. I'm thinking fix the problem that you didn't do a planned test, but the question's actually telling you to prevent the situation in the future.
And what situation do you think they're trying to prevent?
That an item that came up did not get resolved.
Yeah, and the dude didn't raise his hand and say, like, yo, I got a problem. Like,
so that part moves me back to C and D.
Okay. All right. And then, like, the way to think. Go before I give you another.
I would choose D.
You choose D. Why?
Because you're still in the same sprint.
True.
D is you're starting the next sprint. D, you're finishing the sprint that you're in. So you want to prevent the situation in the future, correct it while you're in the sprint. It's while you're working on it. So I would go D because you're fixing it for the future, but you're still in your same sprint. You're not letting it go to the next sprint.
Mm-hmm. Okay, that's awesome. I'm asking the people that are watching us what they think. What I like about that, we'll see what they think. And so what we have down here is really this question. It's using we have a problem, it didn't get solved, which is the world, right? Favorite user agrees D. That's good. And they're using, like, do you understand the purpose of each, like, ceremony, each event? Like, what the daily stand-up, the demo, iteration planning, like, what should we do in each? Like, we're going to have the same people in the room, most likely, but, like, what are we doing? What are we talking about? What's the purpose? And so you're dead on right. Let me go to the next one.
Make one more comment.
Yep.
In narrowing it down to C and D, I would say I was 75% D, 25% C, but I've learned you're never going to be 100%.
True.
So for me, being 75% on one means, okay, that's the one you choose and move on, keep going.
Yeah, and so here's the thing, like, the big thing is, like, we want to prevent the situation from the future. I like what you're saying about the 25-75 thingy. It's like, we're going to prevent this from happening in the future. So we have a systemic problem, whatever, potentially, that this person, like, had an issue 3 days ago, was not willing to say something, did bring it up in the daily stand-ups 3 days in a row. Nobody else, like, said, yo, you got a problem, dude. You got to come on, like, say something. The Scrum Master, facilitator didn't find it. Nobody found it. Like, what's going on? How many of these issues, like, are hurting us that we don't even know about? Like, do we have an environment where people feel comfortable raising their hands or sharing or feeling like they're not going to be judged or whatever? I don't know. It's a made-up situation. But the place where we have these frank conversations is the retrospective iteration planning. Like, this task, if we don't get it done, stuff like that in the card, it's going back in the backlog It may make it into the next sprint, whatever. We're going to talk about the actual card and stuff in the iteration planning, but we're not going to talk about the issue of the dude not doing it, like, or not feeling comfortable. So yeah, you did good. D is there, so we're good. Why did it happen? Thank you, C. Perry. So let's go to another one. All right, take it away. We'll go one more or two more for fun.
Based on the table, in what order should the project manager rank these risks for management purposes? So you got to think management purposes, and you're ranking risks. Don't look at the table yet. A project sponsor is risk averse and is therefore concerned about negative impacts on the project. So now that's definitely Waterfall, because you're talking about a sponsor.
Okay.
To help with this concern, the project team identifies 4 project risks and then evaluates both the probability of occurrence and the impact of the risk. So you have, those are the two. There's the 2 keys: probability of occurrence and impact of risk.
Yeah.
The team uses a 1 to 5 scale, 1 being lowest, 5 being highest.
There you go.
So the sponsor is risk averse, concerned about negative impacts. Project team, to help, identifies 4 project risks and then evaluates them for occurrence and impact.
Yeah.
So now you go to the table. Based on the table, what order should the project manager rank these risks for management purposes?
Yeah, man.
So you want to go with the higher one. So you got high impact, low probability, risk A. Risk B, that's not a good one. 4 and 4. High impact, high probability. Risk C, low probability but high impact, and risk D, kind of low.
So how are you going to make the decision here? There's like a lot of numbers. They got 4 risks. How are we going to make this decision, dude?
One easy way is just add the numbers. You got.
You want to add them? So, yes. Okay, I can do that. I'll do the math for you.
8, 7, 4.
All right.
So if you're ranking them that way, you go B, C, A, D, and that's answer B. So it is a viable answer. The other one.
Let me ask. Close. First of all, what in the risk processes in planning? Which one of these processes are we currently in when we're doing this probability versus impact thing? Which process? What kind of analysis are we doing?
We're doing risk analysis. We're doing.
Understood. Yeah, you got me there. So we identify risks, and then we do 2 types of analysis on risks, like here, and then the last thing is develop risk responses. When we're taking these numbers and the probability versus impact, do you have any idea? I can't even spell develop.
Identify risk.
Yeah.
And then you I'm going to get all the terms wrong. Then you figure out what your action if the risk occurs. What action do you take?
Yeah, man. That's what we got down here. Yeah, that's the bottom of here. Develop risk responses down here. And then there's this middle part where we've got a big long list of risks at the top. We got to make sure, just like a backlog, which ones float to the top, which ones go to the bottom, and who's in the middle. But we got to do something. We got to decide if that's the way we did it with the way you did it, or if there's another way.
Another way of doing it is go by probability.
Well, think about this. So if we prove probability and impact, okay, do it. Go for it. Just choose one of them and tell me why that's more valid than the other, if you don't mind.
Well, if you go, probability, risk A has a high impact, but the lowest probability. So, it's a very low chance that it's actually going to happen, but there's a high impact if it does. But if you go by probability, you can use probability as the first item, and then since you got 2 probabilities, risk C and D are both 2s, I would put C first because it's got a higher impact. So
let me ask you, there's 4 risks here. We could go and we could debate these and all these things. What if there were 44? How hard would it be to do that with we're going to go by probability or impact, pick your poison, and then we're going to one by one, this is a 5 and a 2, 5 and a 3, 5. How hard would that be? 44 or 444?
You'd have to give one more weight than the other. I mean,
understood. And so in the situation, like in real life, you're like, hey, I'm super duper risk averse. Like, I don't want any kind of impact. Like, I don't even like crack a nail or whatever. Like, we can make decisions there. In a general sense, the first thing we want to do, right, is like, so there's two kinds of risk analysis. I'll give you the names. Do you know what the names are? They both start with Q.
Oh, quantitative and qualitative.
Yeah, which one is the one you do first?
Oh, right. Yeah, it's coming back to me.
There you go.
Quantitative is about qualitative. You do qualitative first?
You don't sound like you believe it, but you're right. So like, I know you're saying qualitative first. And what is qualitative? Just give me a layman's terms. What does it mean in a sense?
Yeah, I guess that would be probability, and quantitative would be impact.
Well, I don't know how to spell it. You guys know what I mean. Quantitative. So the qualitative one is where we're doing probability versus impact. And so that's when we have this big, long risk register, big, long list of risks. Like if you think about it, we got like 300 risk, 100 risk, whatever. Like we could either go super duper in depth into each one of them and like dive in, spend a week, understand each one. And 300 weeks from now, we'd be done with the list and we have a long beard. Or we can just like do kind of a back of the envelope probability versus impact on each of them, have a rough rank in a sense, have them float up and down and in the middle. That's the qualitative where we're saying, hey, give me a rank. Come on. Like the first one, that's a 5 impact. Like we're all going to die if that happens. 1, but it like might not happen. 4, 5, 2, whatever. So that's the qualitative. And then when we get into quantitative, there's a lot of things that go into it. We're going to go deeper into the numbers. We're going to see how the whole spread is for all the risk and how it affects the projects and the results and all this stuff. We're getting down to the nitty gritty at that point and understanding the whole, risk profile of the project. So what we're talking about here is qualitative analysis. Now, you were close. Like we're not going to add them. We need more ways for like the data to separate. Like if we just add them, everything like chunks up a lot.
Yeah.
So what's another way that like if we looked at a calculator, there's not the plus button. There's another one that'll help the data separate a little bit. Any ideas?
Multiplier?
Yeah, we can multiply them. I don't know mathematically. This is just like arithmetic, but like, yeah, if we multiply them, like we get what? 4, 10, 16, and 5. So big number bad. So then we just look for it in that. That's what we do. Like we look for the big numbers. Those are the worst ones. And like your adding system might have gotten the same numbers, but we want to go with the multiplication, probability versus impact. So what's the risks what did it say? Based on the table, in what order should the project manager rank these risks? So which ones are the worst? Fire it away.
Obviously, B is the worst because it's high on both.
Yeah, B is worse. Yeah. B is worse because like we have the bottom numbers the biggest, the 16.
Well, I see B as the worst because you're over 3 on both probability and impact.
Okay.
3 is average.
Okay, well, let me ask you this. What if there was a risk B2 that was 3 and 5? That the 5's bigger than the 4, the 3 is smaller than the 4, or how about a 5 and a 3? Which one of these 3, which one's the worst? 5, 3, 4, 4, 3, 5.
5, 3.
Why?
Because the probability is high. It's going to happen.
But I mean, it's not that bad. It's like middle of the road impact.
But it's still going to happen. Where
all right.
The other ones may not happen. Less of a chance of it happening.
I mean, I got stabbed when I was in college in New York City. Like, it was pretty bad. I'm lucky to be alive. That's a 5. Like, I should have died. I would have much rather taken a real strong shot to the face, a 3, and had it 100% hit me than a dude with a knife stab me in the back, 5, with like, I don't know, 3. But it doesn't matter. So like 5 and 3, the way they're doing the math in these, just like, because we can get into this game of like what you think about probability and impact. Like I don't even care what I think. Like, so the way we need to think about it here is just, we need to just multiply them together and take the bigger one. Now, in your brain and heart, you might be like, no. We need to stay away from the things that are guaranteed to hurt us or happen. It's two sides of the coin. But like, we just need to do the math, multiply, and find out what the numbers say. And that's how they're rough math in it, because that's just the way it is in these equations. Like in real life, we can put weightings on this,
right,
and we could say, hey, we really don't want things to happen. That's within our rights. On this one, we're just gonna go straight multiplication. Make sense?
Yep.
Yeah, so it's BCAD. So right there. And that 5-3 thing, 5-3, those would have both been like 15. So you've been like, okay, the same thing. But in real life, you'd be thinking through it. And that's the purpose, is like, let's think about what we value most, what worries us the most, what kind of, is this a project where nothing bad can happen, or if we're just, we're okay with it. So there we go.
Just one more quick point.
Yeah, man.
Looking at the wrong answers, obviously D is the lowest out of all of them.
Mm-hmm.
So any one of them that has
that doesn't have D in there,
doesn't have D at the last spot, you can just cross them right out. Especially D that has D as number 2. You know that's wrong.
Yeah, so you're already down to like 50-50. You run out of time, and you're like, I don't have time to do basic math or whatever. All right, sweet. I'm just 50-50. I'm picking it, like praying I'm getting it right. Yeah.
D
that
is
seems reasonable. Yeah. And
B is last, so that's on option D. It's got risk D up close to the front and B last, so that one's out.
There you go.
I like to look at the wrong answers too, just to confirm.
All right, cool. Let's just do one more for fun, and then we'll call it. I think you're good, dude. You're gonna pass.
Okay. What should the project manager do to develop cultural sensitivity? Okay, so we're talking about cultural sensitivity. Don't know whether it's Agile or Waterfall yet.
Yeah, and it might jump out. Yeah,
I might not need that to answer this, but project manager needs to successfully lead a project that has diverse, globally dispersed team members. That's pretty basic. Project manager needs to successfully lead a team that has diverse, globally. Okay, what should the project manager do to develop cultural sensitivity? I'm thinking right off the bat, I'm thinking communications plan. That's first thing that came into my head. So let's go through the answers. Be aware of local customs. Yes. Remain flexible when working with team members. Yes. And recognize that culture is learned. I'm not exactly sure what they mean by that, but I think I do, and I'm not saying no to that. So
so we're hanging on to it. I like how you went through section. Yes, or kind of.
Yeah, they'll give you two or three good ones, and then one that just spoils the whole thing.
Right, and this might be spoiled or not. Who knows? Let's go on.
Okay, seek help from the Human Resource Department to obtain formal training in this area. That's a good one. That to me, B is something you would do, and then you would do A after it. So I like B. I like B a little bit better than A.
Okay.
Travel. Oh, and this is assuming you work for a big company. Most of these questions assume you're working for a big company, you have a human resource department, and you have people all around the world.
No doubt.
Travel to each team member's geographic location. This is the one where you just go, what the heck are you thinking about? Gain awareness of their culture and meet face-to-face. It's great to meet face-to-face. Answers that they do the stuff face-to-face are usually correct. But in this case, traveling around the world would take months.
Yeah, you can make a TV show out of it. It'd be great. But no, we can't do that, unfortunately.
Explore each team member's culture in depth for several weeks to be sensitive to their needs. I mean, it's not wrong, but that's not the way to do it.
Right. All right, yeah. So, I mean, like several weeks to get involved.
Yeah,
be sensitive. Yeah, we want to be sensitive to their needs and understand and respectful, totally on board. Just
it answers the question.
Manner by which.
Right, it answers the question to do what you're supposed to do, but it's not viable. Understood. So, you're back to A and B. It's not. I don't think there's a lot of complicated stuff here. I'm going to go with B just because I think it's the first thing to do, whereas A would be the second thing to do.
Okay. And then like in the servant leadership kind of model or like there's certain thing like ways in which we lead and respect people and think about, you know, our leadership position and those kind of things. And the other thing is like sometimes when we go our decisions, it's like, do we start like inside and then go in a sense outside, like for help, like of the team in a sense, like we start usually inside, like what can we do inside? And then if we need it, go outside. So same kind of thing. That's just like one of the lenses to look through. So B is looking what, like inside or outside?
B is looking inside.
Well, inside the company, but outside the team in a sense, right? Like,
yeah, inside the company is what I'm thinking.
Okay. Well, I'm just thinking like, yeah, that's a good, like, we don't want to go outside the company without definite reasons, but like inside a core team over like, let me state it in a different way. What can I do initially versus like, what do I need help for from the outside? Like,
right. Prepare yourself.
Yeah, prepare yourself, handle yourself the right way, and then go to like, okay, whatever. Because
reading,
you want to go with B or what do you want to do?
I'm going to go B because reading A over again, A is something you do once the project is started and you're already working. You be aware of the customs. You remain flexible as you're working, as you're dealing with these people. You recognize that their cultures are learned. But B is something you do before the project starts. So the project manager needs to successfully lead a project.
Yeah.
What should the project manager do to develop cultural sensitivity before the project starts? You need to develop it now. That's B.
Like
later.
Okay. So B, like we'll go that. I think the answer is A.
Oh.
And so it's all right. It's all right. And so seek help from human resource to obtain formal training in the area. So formal training on what? Like, I guess like cultural sensitivity.
Yeah.
Which would basically probably tell you, hey, be aware of the customs, remain flexible when working with them, and recognize that culture is learned. I can make corporate training too. All you gotta do is talk like you're an NPR. So like, I think in this one, the way to look at it is, I mean, I guess, so you're saying like the way you see, how do you see the individual, like that they're like, they need to be trained to like respect others or they don't have this realization? Talk me through like your answer for B versus A in a sense.
Basically you need to develop cultural sensitivity. The PM needs it. So you would do B, and when you're doing B, you would learn A.
Okay.
So again, like I said,
is B like the only way to achieve it, I wonder?
No, definitely not. It's not the only way, but you're using your company resources internally. Right. You're starting with yourself because you need to develop. What got me was the question says the project manager needs to successfully lead the project. So the project manager needs to improve him or herself to successfully lead the project. So therefore, the project manager is the one that needs the training.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, it's arguable, but like, I think the thing is like, this seems a little like a formal training in cultural sensitivity. I think like more of like the appreciation, maybe in order to develop that. I mean, you might be able to make the argument, but I think overall it's just asking you about like, what is the approach and the method that they need. So what should they do to develop cultural sensitivity? Like, I guess take this approach, I think, is what we want. And when I was talking about like whether it's I'm doing it inside as the project manager, I'm taking responsibility to do it, or someone else is doing it to me or for me. Like, I don't think it's bad to reach out to the human resources, but I think the better thing to do is just like to have this appreciation and take on the task like with oneself. I think they're just asking like, how should we operate in a diverse world? Yeah,
it's a specific answer instead of a general answer.
Yeah, that's another way to look at it. This is very specific because when I asked like, that's another way to look versus like a general, like an approach answer. So we want to The thing is like cultural sensitivity. That's pretty general. Diverse, globally dispersed team, like pretty general. This is a really general answer. I'm glad you came up with that. This is a really specific one. Like, I don't know that they have training. I don't know that the training is for like, just seems really specific.
Yeah.
Versus the first one. So, all right. My opinions of your performance have not changed. And so we're good there. All right, man. Well, you're going to be fine. Let me know what you decide on exam dates. We'll keep going like this. I'll see you tomorrow in coaching calls and stuff. And then we'll go from there. All right, man. See you later.
Great. Thank you.
Yes, sir. Anytime. See ya. Bye. Yep.